Hi everybody, it is Marvel Boy 800 in my third video. So in this video, I will be talking about the hockey mask that Jason Voorhees wears in the Friday the 13th film series. Okay, so the mask first appears in Friday the 13th Part 3, and Jason also starts wearing it in that movie. And he becomes the killer in the series in Friday the 13th Part 2. And in that film, since he hasn't yet acquired the mask, he wears a burlap sack over his head with an eye hole cut out on the left side. And near the end of the movie, after he is defeated by Ginny, she removes his burlap sack, but we don't see his face. Like, his face isn't shown to viewers. And after she and Paul leave, Jason removes the machete from his shoulder and crawls away, and the sack is right next to him. But for some reason, he doesn't pick it up and put it back on. He just leaves it behind. Okay, and then in the next film, Friday the 13th, Part 3, Jason acquires the mask. It belonged to Shelley Finkelstein, and later in the movie, Jason kills Shelley and steals the mask from him and wears it to hide his face. So the mask is a Detroit Red Wings goalie mask, and it is round, has a round nose, air holes all over it, and the eye holes don't have any lens, so a person can like put their fingers through them. And it also has three red arrowhead triangles. Um, on it. One is between the eye holes and points downward, and the two other ones are below the eye holes and they point upward diagonally towards the eye holes. That's right. And the mask has elastic straps for attached to it, so that so that it can like stay on a person's face, so a person can wear it. And near the end of the film, the mask receives a cut, or like a crack actually, at the top left above the left eye hole, due to Chris Higgins like stabbing him in the head with an axe, and this is known as an axe crack and is seen throughout the film series. And in the next film, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, the mask has two differences. The axe cut is more visibly bloodied, and the paint job of the triangles is very peeled off paint, so the left half of the top red triangle is scratched off, and the two lower triangles are still there, but later in the movie they fade and are barely visible. And then in the next film, Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, Jason isn't the killer in this film because he was killed in the previous film by Tommy Jarvis, but he was then accidentally brought back to life by Tommy in Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. So the killer in this movie is a paramedic named Roy Burns. So Roy wears a hockey mask similar to Jason's. It is unknown where he acquired it because he is never seen acquiring it. Later in the movie, he turns up wearing it. He is seen wearing it later in the movie. Yes, and the mask looks exactly like the one from Part 3, except it has a more circular shape, has no top arrowhead triangle, and only two triangles below the eye holes, which are similar to the ones on Jason's mask, except they're blue, larger, and point towards the middle of the mask, just under the nose. Yes, and in the next film, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, Jason wears the same mask from Part 3 and the final chapter, so it is pretty dirty and still has the axe crack from Part 3, and it also only has the top red arrowhead triangle, which is darker and more triangular than before. And in the next film, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, Jason's mask is a bit more wider than before. Not wider like whiter, like it is more white than before. And it still only has the top triangle, which is even darker than in the previous film. And the mask also has a small part broken off at the bottom left corner due to Megan Garris hitting his face with a bow propeller in the previous film, which exposes part of Jason's mouth on that same side, and the mask is later destroyed by Tina. So later in the movie, Tina uses her telekinesis to tighten the mask until it breaks in two, which destroys it and reveals Jason's badly decayed and deformed face. And in the next film, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason acquires a new hockey mask, and it belonged to Jim Miller, who used it to prank his girlfriend Susie. So this new mask well, actually, first off, when Jason climbs onto the yacht that Jim and Susie are on, he acquires the mask. So this new mask has an ovoid shape, yellow color tone, and is much wider. And this time I mean wider. Yes, and for reasons unknown, it has a crack at the top left above the left eye hole, similar to the axe crack from part 3, but much narrower. And the mechanism used to attach the elastic straps is based on D-shaped iron ringlets. And the mask has three red arrowhead triangles, kind of like the ones like on from part 3, except they're much thinner, and the two lower triangles point upward diagonally out past the eye holes instead of pointing upward diagonally towards the eye holes. Yep, and then in the next film, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, the mask looks quite different, mainly because it is like very damaged. Like it has the axe crack from part 3 and the lower crack from part 7, and all other assorted damages, and it once again only has the top red arrowhead triangle, which is darker and more triangular than in the previous film. And the mask is also now fused to Jason's face due to the toxic waste Rennie threw at him in the previous film. So it's now stuck on his face and he can't take it off, but it came off of his face when he was dragged down to hell at the end of the movie. And it remained on the surface, but then Freddy Krueger's bladed glove emerged from the ground and dragged it down to hell. Yep, and then next in Freddy versus Jason, the producers decided to change Jason's mask entirely. So the shape of the mask is reminiscent of Part 3. It has the original three red triangles, but not the axe crack. Yeah, this time the mask doesn't have the axe crack from Part 3 or the lower crack from Part 7. And the only real difference is that the weathering on the mask gave it more of a cream color than an actual white, and leathery black straps were also used for the mask, and extra air holes were added where the snaps are. You know, the snaps that are used to attach the elastic straps to the mask. The elastic straps. Yeah, and next in Jason X, Jason's mask is quite different. That is much different than the other one than before. Like it is very angular and no longer has the round nose, and it yet again only has the top red triangle, which is again like darker and more triangular, and it yet again has the axe crack from part 3 as well as the lower crack from part 7, but is much more subtle. Yep, and later in the movie, most of the mask is destroyed when KM blows most of Jason's head off, and while the group is setting the charges, a healing machine in the room Jason's body is in activates, either due to the equipment of the Grendel malfunctioning or Jason's soul manipulating it, and nano ants rebuild Jason's body using materials scattered around the room, and he becomes a very powerful cyborg, and is now much more difficult to kill. He gains a cybernetic body, and his machete is upgraded, and he gains an entirely new mask. This one is silver, made of a metallic alloy, and fully wraps around his face. And the holes on it are also positioned differently, which gives it an organic look. That's right. And at the end of the movie, like after Brodsky and Jason are incinerated in the atmosphere of Earth 2, Jason's mask is seen sinking to the bottom of a lake, and it is charred. Yep, and then finally in Friday the in the next in finally next in Friday the 13th, like you know like the remake from 2009, Jason starts off as wearing a burlap sack over his head with an eye hole cut out on the left side, just like in part 2. And later in the movie, Donnie tears off the burlap sack, and Jason retaliates by killing him. And then as he picks up the sack to put it back on, but then sees like a a hockey mask in a nearby crate, tries it on, and decides to wear this instead. And so he wears it for the rest of the movie. So this mask looks just like the one from part 3, except it has a more dirty and worn out look, which gives it a more of a pale cream color, and the red triangles are slightly faded. And it also has some scratches on it. That's right. So that is it for this video, and I will see you in my next video. See ya.